RJ Fantasy Football Talk. Welcome. This is the last episode for the season, so we're going to dig in on a couple of championships for this week. But my name is Rodney, as always, and this is JJ.
What's up?
What's going on, brother? How you feeling?
I'm the champion, so I'm feeling good.
Okay, look, I ain't mad at you.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm proud of you, man. I taught you something, man. You know, you just learned something from me. So I appreciate it, brother. I appreciate it.
This league I was in before we even started playing together, so I can't put your lessons on that one.
But, man, come on, man. You know my lessons help you this year.
But I say good competition makes you better, so I say you've helped me hone my skills. So
is that right?
So we can share the glory this time.
Okay.
We didn't get a chance to play each other, though. We were hoping to meet up in at least, we had 2 leagues where we had a possibility of meeting up, but it didn't work out that way. So, like I told everybody, I was in 2 championship games last week. One of them I lost, and I lost to the same person that eliminated you the week before. But then in my other league, I ended up bringing it home. It was close. Aaron Jones, who I'm sure we'll talk about later, he had me sweating for a moment, but I pulled it off.
Hey, look, I'm glad for you, man. You know, last year, this year was tough, but last year I won some championship last year. So, hey, the roles, like I said before, the roles reversed. I'm happy for you, man. So, better luck next year, though. You always got next year. Just gotta prepare a little bit better. Go from there. I think we'll be all right, though. So I'm glad we won something, though.
Yeah. No money, but it still counts. It still counts.
Yeah, we'll win something next year. So it's all good. We're gonna roll into our waiver. If you need any waiver pickups for this week, we got a few. I have a few, that I looked up that you possibly could use this week in your fantasy championship game.
Yeah.
So right now, I have Gus Edwards, who is owned in 7.4% of Yahoo right now. And the reason I picked him because, they're sitting all their starters in Baltimore this week.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a good pickup. And they play Pittsburgh, which is not a bad defense, but they're not a good defense either. So they're like the middle of the pack. Then I got DeAndre Washington.
Yeah, he's going to play again.
44.6%. And they play Denver, which is a great matchup. So if you really need him and you need a running back, he would be somebody that you can pick up. Another guy, Daniel Jones, he's owned in 22.6% in Yahoo, and they play Philly. Philly does not have a good defense at all. And he threw 5 touchdowns last week.
Right.
So if you're looking for a quarterback, 2 stars, that would be the one I would reach for. And another one is Andy Dalton. He's owned in 7% of Yahoo. And they play the Cleveland Browns this week. So that's another plus quarterback you can play and you can push out there if you really need to. So those are mine. Do you have any fantasy waiver?
I had a couple of those, but I say starting off, if you're playing in week 17, you should really fire your commissioner. But because it's just a terrible week to try to make any moves. Like you said, Baltimore's they're not even gonna start so many players, and I have another one coming up later. I'll talk about where I don't think there's gonna be too many starters playing in that one. So it's a difficult week. The ones you said, the only extra one I throw in is Dallas Goedert. He's owning like 60% of some leagues. So if you can pick him up, he's going to be a great start because Zach Ertz isn't going to be playing this Sunday. So I think he's going to, if you can get him, like I said, it's only about 40% of you all that probably have a shot at it. But I think he's going to put up some numbers with Zach Ertz out of the lineup.
I definitely agree with you because he actually had a touchdown last week. So
exactly.
He got hurt, so I think that's a good pickup. That's really good.
Yeah.
So, just to piggyback that.
No.
Greg Ward from the Eagles.
Right.
He's basically the number 1 receiver now, and he's owned in like 13.2% of Yahoo. So if you need a receiver, basically at this point of the game, you shouldn't need any of these guys. But if you need them to,
right,
just to fill in for some of your players, as far as like Baltimore players.
If you're exactly.
You know,
like we said since the beginning of the this playoff season, like right now you're playing your studs. you're not benching your quality guys unless it's week 17 and none of your studs are playing because they're actually on good teams, or you had somebody get injured. That's about the only reason you're looking at the way. Otherwise, why are you even on the waiver wire?
You should not be on the waiver wire.
Yeah. So.
Rule of thumb: I tell anybody, play your studs. Play your studs to the end. Play the ones that got you there.
Exactly.
If they got you there, you're playing no matter what. Because you drafted them 1, 2, or 3, you gotta play them. So those are the guys I have. That's if you need them. If you don't need them, I wouldn't even reach for them. But if you need them, those are the guys I would try to go for.
I did write down one other name, and I had him on my waiver list, but I ended up scratching him. But again, if you just need a guy throwing spaghetti against the wall, seeing what sticks, I did say maybe pick up Hunter Renfrow, but for the wide receiver for the Raiders, because I very rarely get to talk about my players. He had a good week last week, and he seems to, I really like him for next year as one of those underground players. But week 17, he might make some noise. Again, that's really if you're desperate.
I played Denver, so it's a shot that really he could do work.
He could,
So, like I said, if they need him, honestly, you said, if your commissioner got you playing in week 17, you should fire him anyway. Right. So, that's just a known fact. So, but it's good though. Actually, I want to do a new segment.
Okay.
To end the year off. And it's called Fantasy Studs and Flops.
Okay.
And I have a list of studs, and it could be any position. So I have a list of studs, and I have a list of players that flopped. If you want to start off with yours, you can do that.
Well, are we doing studs from week 16 or going into week 17? We're
doing studs from week 16.
Okay. Well, if I'm gonna go with the number one flop that I had, because last week when we were talking, and I rewatched. My family was in. My father, and my mother came up. I mentioned last week my mother-in-law was up here, so we were watching one of the episodes together just last week, and you and I talked about that Texans Tampa Bay game. And I said there should be touchdowns all over the place. I was building it up. I was hyping this game. It should be awesome. But I didn't realize it till this morning when I was rewatching it that I said, watch, I say this and it's going to be like a dud game where no one's going to hardly score. That's exactly what happened. and my number one.
I can agree with you because I have somebody on my flop.
Right. And so I'm going to have two flops, and their quarterbacks, Jameis Winston and Deshaun Watson, were terrible in that game. We already know Jameis Winston throws touchdowns. He really should have had 2 pick sixes. He got saved on one of them just to start the game. And so they were both terrible. And honestly, anyone involved in the offense was pretty much terrible in that game.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I actually, from that game, I had Hopkins as a flop. He had 5 receptions and 23 yards. That's such a major flop.
Yes.
But my biggest flop out of everybody that I had is DK Metcalf. He had 0 receptions and 0 yards on one pass attempt from Russell Wilson. He had 0 points, period.
Is there anyone from that Seattle game on Seattle? Because Tyler Lockett was terrible in that game. Russell Wilson was terrible in that game. Yeah. I don't understand, because that's another game we thought was going to be Seattle players should get off in that game. Where did Arizona's defense come from in that game?
That was a matchup that we talked about last week, that they needed to win to stay in the hunt for what they were playing for, which is the division title.
Right.
First round bye and home field advantage throughout the playoffs. But they laid an egg against an Arizona team that they shouldn't even had trouble with. So for them to go out there and not produce anything. I mean, that's insane to me, man. It just shows you that, it reminds me of the week before when the 49ers played the Falcons. And they didn't should have just when they played their game and got them out of the way. So I see that as that was a game, but they got a big matchup coming up this week. But we're gonna talk about that later.
Right.
Another guy that I had, Amari Cooper.
Yes.
He had
someone else we've discussed in previous episodes. Yeah.
Yes. He had 4 receptions and 24 yards, which terrible.
And at the end of the game, did you read that they said what was the wording, that he wasn't benched at the end of the game? They were just doing a rotation switch, and so they were trying to.
You don't bench your number 1 receiver.
Yeah.
Come on now.
I was like
anybody knows that. Like, you're not benching Julian Edelman.
Right.
That's a rotation.
Especially that's like that story made no sense to me whatsoever. It just goes on to say what we've been saying for the last couple of weeks. Amari Cooper is not that guy, and I really don't think he's back. He and the coach are somewhere else when we're watching football next season. So
well, and honestly, to top morning game, and I think really, it's the coach. Obviously, the coach need to go. He's the real problem.
Yeah.
And then on top of that is I think they don't believe in Dak like that because I read something earlier today that they were saying that they don't really have confidence in giving Dak a lot of money.
Right.
And I don't know what you're going to do if you don't sign him.
Right.
You have any options after that. What do you think? How you feel about that?
I've never been a big Dak Prescott fan, but despite how bad this season has gone for the Cowboys, Dak has been pretty impressive as a quarterback, possibly because they've been losing so much. He had to throw the ball so much. I think if you don't give him that money, someone else is going to, and then you're just what are they going to as their plan B with Dallas? So
that's the thing. They don't have a plan B.
They have no other options.
They have no plan B.
Right.
And then the thing is, I mean, he wants $40 million. But the thing is, I personally, I wouldn't give him $40 million. Now, 30, 25, 30, then that's good for me. But 40, he will be the top paid quarterback in the league with $40 million.
But what we've seen lately, any quarterback that's up, with their contract year comes up, they're going to be the top paid quarterback or one of the top quarterback. That's just the going trend. I don't know if there's any way to get around it. Do I think he's worth that money? No, not at all. But the way we've seen things going, I don't really see how they avoid it and stay competitive.
They got a big game this week.
They have a huge game this week.
Amari Cooper can't go out there and lay egg again. So, and another one that was disappointing, who I expect to have a better year next year, but who also had a good year this year, is Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb had 45 yards. I
wrote that one down. That was one of, because he's the leading rusher in the NFL right now, and he had 45 yards last week. I was like, 45. That's terrible. But yeah, I think he'll bounce back. They play Cincinnati this week, so that always helps you out a little bit. But definitely disappointed. If you were in the championship game, you weren't expecting that kind of performance.
Oh no. Yeah. Now for my studs this week. I have Ryan Fitzpatrick as one of my studs. He had a really good game. Actually, that Miami-Cincinnati game.
Both of them were studs. Right. Do you think?
Fitzpatrick had 419 and 4 touchdowns, and Dalton had 396 and 4 touchdowns. So both of them had really good games. So
those were the first names that came to my mind. The only thing, I still made them my top 2 studs as well. But I almost didn't put him on the list only because I'm thinking, if you were in the championship game, were you starting Andy Dalton or Ryan Fitzpatrick? If you were in a 2-quarterback league, I'm thinking, yeah, sure. But for 1-quarterback leagues, I'm like, I wonder how many people had both of those guys on their bench and are just cussing themselves out this week because they didn't get those 4 touchdowns. I don't know.
If you look at the matchup, if you was in the
matchup, right?
If you was in the championship game, and you had a Fitzpatrick or a Dalton on your bench, and you look and you played the matchup, then you can be like, you know what, I'm gonna play this matchup because I think. So I mean, you think about, you know what? Yeah, I might play this matchup. Then that's a smart thing to do. But if you got somebody like,
Right.
Russell Wilson.
Right.
Got playing about Russell Wilson.
And I would not have benched Russell Wilson for either one of those.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And these are the guys, and those are the people that have probably lost their championship game and just mad, just mad.
Exactly. Now, man, two running backs that had big games.
Kenyon Drake,
and Saquon Barkley.
Saquon Barkley is the guy who won me a championship.
Yes.
In that one league I have, yeah.
200 plus yards last week between rushing and receiving and a touchdown. And Drake had 166 and 2 touchdowns.
Right.
So between those two running backs, they had monster games. And Saquon had that in the first half. He had like half of that in the first half. I'm like, geez.
Right.
So, but, that's your boy, though. You like Kendrick Drake, though. You're a big Kendrick Drake fan. So I'm going to let you have this one. So, did you have any studs?
I had all the names you said so far. Another, I slipped him in my studs, is Hines in Indianapolis. Okay. He had 2 returns run back for touchdowns. And he's another one of those guys I'm wondering how many actually people took advantage of that. Who had him?
None.
But
I mean, you wouldn't think to play him because
you're right. He's not even the main guy. So he was probably one of those guys on the bench. But I did have someone who was in people's lineups. I'm sure it's Tyler Boyd, who put up 128 receiving yards. He had 2 touchdowns for Cincinnati. Going back to that same game with Andy Dalton.
Yeah.
So
that game probably won if you played.
If you had that,
if you played anybody from that game, because actually, the running back had a good game too.
Mm-hmm. Joe Mixon.
Game. So everybody produced in that game,
except for Nick Chubb. No, I'm sorry, wrong team.
It's okay.
That's this week coming up. That's this week coming up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But that's all I have. I mean,
yeah.
I got one more. I'm sorry. Michael Thomas. He actually had 12 receptions, 136 yards, touchdown, and he broke record this week.
Yeah.
So he broke the most reception record, which that man is a super stud, bro. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Like,
he has I was reading something. He has numbers in the end of his 4th season that other wide receivers on a top receiving list had at year 5. So he's gonna completely obliterate some of these receiving records. Cool. Him and Drew Brees, as long as they're together, I like him.
That guy is something else, man.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
If I can get my hands on that guy next year,
you're gonna have to pick high for him.
Man, we talking about you gonna have to go second round, first round.
I'm about to say depending on your league, you might be first round on that one.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You might have to swing around to get a quarterback.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, especially like if you're on the back end of a draft.
Yeah.
Like he could be there for you because it depends on where everybody else is going. Like especially in our leagues with 2 quarterbacks. If you're at 9, 10, man, you might can sneak up and get them, and just get your quarterback, get your first quarterback on that go around, and you still have a production from your quarterback because he puts up so many numbers, man.
Right.
It's insane, man.
Yeah.
The numbers are crazy that he put up, man. So it's like he does every week though. That's the thing. He don't take a week off. That's what you like about him. So it's like
he's the guy you want. I think because in the last few years it's been pretty much like DeAndre Hopkins and Julio Jones going as your top wide receivers. Mike Thomas is that guy this year, by far.
To me, he's the best receiver in the game.
Yeah.
Hands down. Julio's good, but the thing with Julio doesn't get touchdowns.
Right.
And that's his biggest fault. And that could be on his quarterback. That could be on him.
Right.
He don't finish with touchdowns.
Right.
He'll finish with a bunch of yards, but he's not going to finish with touchdowns.
Right.
So, but he still can get you 1,400 yards a year. Just the touchdowns don't add up. He got 6 touchdowns this year. He should be in double digits.
He definitely should be. So
that's what I have.
Okay.
You got anything else you want to, as far as your studs you want to go forward with, or
nope.
you good?
That's good for me. That's good for me.
Well, we got some matchups coming up this week, but we also got start at 6 segment to where we got a couple people that we're gonna start, And want to sit. Right now, I have 4 people that I would sit this week if you're in the championship game, and that's if you have. I'm sitting Le'Veon Bell.
Oh wow, okay. He was the very last person I put on my sit list, and I was going back and forth about it because the last time they played Buffalo, he actually had a pretty good game, but I'm looking at his production the last few weeks, and so he was literally the last name I wrote down when I was doing my sit list. I like that.
You know that.
Yeah.
And then I also got, even though he had a good game last week, I'm looking at Ryan Fitzpatrick. I'm sitting him against the Patriots.
Okay.
And the reason I say that because the last time he played the Patriots, he threw for under 200 yards
right.
and 4 interceptions. So I would, if you're in the championship game this week, I would not play him against the Patriots.
Okay.
Even Devontae Parker, I wouldn't play in that same game. I just would sit him just because of the fact that he's just not really somebody you want to play because they locked down. Plus, they have the number 1 corner in the league out in New England.
Right.
So you gotta pay attention to that too. So he's gonna be on Devontae Parker. So you think Devontae Parker ain't doing much with him covering because he's shutting down one side. So then I got Freeman from the Atlanta Falcons.
Okay.
I'm sitting him against the Bucks because the Bucks have a top 15 running defense. Rush defense. So, and they generally stop the rush. You don't get no more than 75 yards a game rushing against them. So you're not going to clear 100. So if you had any to add to that list, just let me know.
I'm going to hurt your feelings. Know who I'm sitting?
Don't hurt my feelings.
Jimmy G.
Come on, man.
I got to do it to you.
Okay. All right.
That's one of my top matchup games for this week. Seattle and San Francisco. So much riding on that game. You guys, you have your chance to get the number 1 seed.
Yeah, I know. Man.
Right.
I know.
And I think y'all win the game because there's literally the Seahawks to bring back Marshawn Lynch, so that gives you an indication of what's happening there. That like their health is bad at the worst time of the season. But the last time the 49ers played Seattle, what did your boy do? He had 248 yards passing. He had a touchdown and an interception. And I'm looking at his production the last few weeks. The last really good game I think he had was that time when y'all played the New Orleans Saints.
Yep.
Since that moment, I was like, Jimmy G, you're losing me. In fact, I remember that week I said, should I make him my stud in one of my leagues? And he's been studless. I might have jinxed him for you. I don't know.
No. I agree because,
right.
I watch every game. So that game, he had, like you said, he had those stats, but he also had another interception that they dropped.
Right,
so
right.
He could have had 2 interceptions.
He could have, right.
So I agree with you. I think he's, in real life, he's going to have to come to play Sunday because we have to win that game.
I can't see y'all losing that game. Seattle was too banged up, right?
They too banged up. They lost all their running backs.
Right.
So I feel like we should win because we're more healthy than they are right now at this point.
And I think y'all are a better team, even with them healthy. Well, of course you think so. But.
Yeah, you don't have to.
Right.
But I'm gonna tell you this. First of all, we should have won the game because of the fact that our kicker made a 45-yarder, then missed a 45-yarder.
Okay.
That would have won the game. So we went to overtime with him and lost the game. So therefore, we should have won the game.
Okay.
Anyway, but we're gonna get our revenge this week, and we can go ahead and take them out and beat them in Seattle, and we'll win the division and get home field advantage throughout the playoffs. So we can go ahead and get a route to the Super Bowl. So I can go ahead and lift that trophy up. Number 6 for my boys. You know how. Come on.
Okay. As far as the NFC concerned, I'll be rooting with you.
I know you will.
Another set I have, and this is an entire team. Most people know by now, like I think you just mentioned earlier in the game, that Baltimore is sitting all their players. The Texans, they have the 4 o'clock game, but at 1 o'clock the Chiefs play. I expect the Chiefs to win, and in that case, the Texans have literally nothing to play for. So I'm thinking, because I seen one list with not Deshaun Watson, but DeAndre Hopkins was a really big play for somebody. I was reading this. I was like, no, DeAndre Hopkins is going to be sitting on the sideline drinking Gatorade. So I'm like, all Texans players, just put them on your bench, because and that's why I hate Week 17. It's like the teams that have stuff to play for, you can win, but even once the game is over, they're sitting everybody. So they might play and still ruin it, but I don't think the Texans play at all. I think they're just like Baltimore, where they're just sitting down. Yeah,
I agree with you, honestly, because the Patriots don't have nothing to play for this week. And I say sit Ryan Fitzpatrick, but that could change by Sunday, because if the Patriots are up by a lot, they're going to sit their starters anyway.
Right.
But to start the game, I would definitely sit Ryan Fitzpatrick and Parker because of the fact that. But, they might sit Tom Brady second half.
Yeah.
Because they ain't got nothing to play for. They won a division already. And they're not getting home field advantage because Baltimore got that.
They still have to win to get the second seed and get that bye, but it's Miami, so I don't think they're going to have to play much. Right. So they'll be there. They have it wrapped up, and I don't know how many Patriots players are going to really be helpful for you. Yeah. At that point, so yeah.
Now I do have a couple people that you do have to start.
Okay.
This week. Dak Prescott.
Prescott.
We're not fans of him.
Right.
If you're looking at the matchup, they play
Mm-hmm.
Washington, who has the 25th defense in passing, which is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a great matchup for him.
Right.
Because of the fact that if you're in a championship game this week, he is somebody that's a rebound game basically for him.
Right.
To rebound from the way he played last week. So I can see you playing.
We saw Daniel Jones throw 5 touchdowns against Washington last week.
Exactly.
I'm not a big Dak Prescott guy, but Dak Prescott's a better quarterback than Daniel Jones. At this point, maybe later that changes. So I think Dak has a monster game. And, of course, Zeke, who you're always playing anyway. But I think Zeke is going to have – look what Saquon Barkley did just last week. I think Zeke replicates that kind of performance. So.
Oh, definitely. Totally.
And they have to play. I don't think it matters because I don't see Philadelphia losing against the Giants, but they're the Eagles, and just when you think they should win, but I think they still get the job. I think the Eagles get the job done. I don't think the Cowboys are playing for anything, but they won't know that, so they're gonna go out hard to try to win. Plus, it's the Redskins and Cowboys game, so it's a rivalry game.
Well, I think honestly that game, because we're gonna talk about that. We're gonna get to that, but another one I say start this week is actually 2. Aaron Jones.
Okay.
And Nick Chubb.
I think Nick Chubb has to bounce back.
Who has the 30th ranked rushing defense in the league, and then you got Aaron Jones, who playing the Lions, they have 29th ranked. Aaron Jones is going to have a monster game because actually they're like Green Bay playing for something.
Right.
So they playing for actually a number 1 seed.
Right.
If everything works out for them.
Right.
So they're going to play their starters regardless. So if I was anybody that got Aaron Jones, I'm playing him. But I would play him anyway just because of the fact that he is a stud no matter what.
Yeah.
The boy is good.
He's going to be a monster. We have a list coming out later for next season, and Aaron Jones is that guy. I'm really impressed with what he's been doing this year, and the way they're revamping that offense. You definitely play him. He was the. I'm going to keep mentioning that I won the championship last week. Saquon Barkley got it for me, but I was watching that game, and Aaron Jones rated near the end of the game. He had that, what was it, a 52-yard run to get that touchdown. I'm looking and said, oh no, I think I just lost. So I had to go back and check. and I barely hung on for like less than 4 points, separating me and the person I played against. So Aaron Jones almost killed me, and he's a monster. He's a great pickup. I know you hit him in one of our leagues because of someone else's stupidity this year. So
they didn't know any better.
They didn't know any better.
They're not gurus like we are. So you got to understand they don't know. But I'm saying that kid is going to be
he's
good.
Going to be
like you say, you made a valid point. They're building the offense around him.
Yeah.
Because he's a 3-down back now.
Yeah.
He's definitely a 3-down back.
He's been what Green Bay's been missing. Because, what Green Bay was been looking for a running back for how long before they finally got a guy. They didn't have a running. Their short passes was their running game for years. Now they have a stud. And they're being smart. And they're building the offense around them. So you've seen.
I got a question.
What you got?
Are you going? Is he a top 5 running back next year?
Oh, easily.
Over Zeke?
Over Zeke, yes. I think over Zeke.
Okay. I mean, I see your list. I mean, he's high on my list too. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I think Zeke got him by a notch. Just by a notch.
He hasn't hit him this year.
I like both of them.
Oh, I think you're winning if you have either one. But
I mean, right now, I'll take Zeke right now over him, but not that much though.
Yeah. It's a hairline separating the two.
Yeah,
it's a hairline separating them.
Than him, actually. So Zeke has been in the league a little bit longer than him. So I think going into next year, like next year towards the end, I think he might jump.
Yeah.
Because of the age factor, and Zeke got a lot of miles on him. So
yeah,
he's been running. He's been doing 250 carries a year.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of carries. I think Jones didn't get that many carries in Green Bay like that.
Right.
So he's making the most out of like 16, 18 carries. So I think he's a stud. And in fact, like I said, there's a lot of players I'm trying to get my hands on next year. I gotta be there to get them and make sure they're there. But when you got people like for instance, in our league, they know how to draft, so it's like you got to kind of be doing your homework to make sure you get that guy. So
yeah,
I had another one, but I had Tom Brady and Sonny Michel as another one you should start.
Right.
Just because of the matchup. I mean, Sonny Michel, they're gonna run the ball probably all game anyway with Sonny Michel. Because, he's going to hand the ball off. Tom Brady might go 250 yards just because they're going to get up by so much.
Right.
They're going to start handing the ball off to Tony Michel. So that's my list of stars. If you have anything to add on to that.
Another guy I think I add to that list is Derrick Henry. I like him this week.
Love Derrick Henry.
He had a so-so game last week. He only had 86 yards rushing. But I think this week he has a really good week, and they have something to play for. The Titans need to win, so I would add him to my stud guys for this week. Yeah,
I love Derrick Henry, and I think Derrick Henry next year is going to be a monster. And the thing is, what he doesn't even catch out the back.
Yeah, that's. Going back to, I seen your list, and I see you have Derrick Henry a little bit higher than mine, and that's what I counted against him, that he does not catch out the backfield. But I still like him. I still like him.
Total numbers, he had 13.
Yeah,
he missed last week, and he probably missed like a couple weeks throughout the season. Now, take that into account. Let's say 3 weeks. He's got 1,300 yards.
Okay.
Already. Just imagine he would have played those 3 weeks.
Right.
Just say he get the minimum of 100 yards. He's still looking at 1,600 yards already on the season. That's why I think even though he don't catch out the backfield, if he add that to his game, just say in the offseason he add that to his game, he gonna be problems, man. I'm telling you.
I say this, giving him a whole season to play with Ryan Tannehill instead of Marcus Mariota, I think they work on that, and you probably see a bit more from him.
Oh, yeah. Me, I got him ranked pretty high on my list.
Mm-hmm.
But if he's a top 10 running back to me.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna say top 5, but definitely top 10. Somebody who wanted to grab in the top 10 list. So definitely. But hey, look, I love Derrick Henry. That's definitely a good one. So good job, man. You be doing research.
Hey, I try.
So we got a couple games this week, man. I know you probably got some games, but I got 3.
I only have 3 that I like. I told you earlier I was looking at like 11 different ones. I narrowed it down.
You made it down to 3.
I narrowed it down. There's only 3 games. Interested to see if we have the same 3. What you got?
I got 49ers, Seahawks.
Yes.
Redskins, Cowboys.
Yep.
And I got the Giants and the Eagles.
We are 3 for 3.
Okay. Well, let's start with 49ers, Seattle.
Okay.
Since that's the big game out of all 3 of them. Obviously, it's guys that should have fantasy impact in this game. Jimmy G should have a fantasy impact. We just don't know playing in that stadium. You know, with that defense, you know, the 12th man, there's a lot going to that.
I already said if you have better options, I play them instead of Jimmy G. But if you don't, I don't think he's you can have worse options. So if he's your best guy, go with him. He has the potential to put up. Like I said, they should win this game, and so they should win this.
And
game.
I got Kittles.
I love Kittles in every game.
Love Kittles, and I have the 49ers defense. And I say the 49ers defense because the defense is going to have to step up.
Yeah.
To win this game.
They've been getting exploited a lot lately. I think I agree with you. I think that this is a step up moment for them.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
We have to step up. And I'm not even going to point out any particular person on the defense. I'm just going to say the defense
altogether
have to step up. They have to make a play or two
to
get us, I ain't going to say the lead, but just to kind of get us some breathing room.
But don't you kind of know what Seattle's going to do going into this game? Because like you said, they're bringing in Marshawn Lynch. So you kind of know it's going to be the Russell Wilson show, right? So that should make it easy for the defense to tee off on that.
I think really Seattle's at a disadvantage because of the fact they lost the receiver that got suspended for PEDs.
Right.
So Lockett's going to have to step up, and DK is going to have to step up.
Right.
I don't really see Marshawn Lynch having a big game like everybody thinks.
I don't think he has a huge impact at all.
I don't see it because he's been out for a year.
Right.
I mean, you just can't jump in and play like that. I mean, it's the NFL, for God's sake. So it's just not going to happen. I mean, obviously, now the only person I do worry about is Hostler, Jacob Hostler.
Okay.
He's the only one that I worry about as far as having anything fantasy production wise.
Right.
Because the last time we played him, he was the one that was killing us across the middle. Mm-hmm. Because he, like Russell Wilson, looks to him. I don't know if you watched it, but he looks to him a lot.
Right.
Late. So he is definitely one to keep an eye on. I mean, obviously you have Tyler Lockett, but Lockett can be shut down.
Yeah, he's been way too iffy. I don't have faith in a lot of. That's why I think Seattle loses this game. Their stars haven't been very reliable, other than you could say Russell Wilson, and not even him last week. So, yeah.
Now, I do think a key player in the game for the 49ers is Raheem Mostert.
Okay.
Raheem Mostert has to, they have to play him, and I believe they have to give him 20 carries.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I understand you have, and me and you talk all the time about Breida and who you take out of that backfield. But to me, if you watch the last game against Seattle, Mustard had a better game than all.
Right. Wasn't Tevin Coleman the starter last week? He didn't.
He was.
Mustard ended up putting in most of the work, but that's what I said. They
is a better.
Right.
To me, I know they spend a lot of money on Coleman.
Yeah.
But Mustard gives them the
better chance to win. Right. He's a more efficient player. So.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, because he's fast, and he hit the block a little bit better, and he hit the hole faster. It's just like Coleman to me. hesitates too much. So he'll wait for something to open up instead of hitting the small seam that's there.
Right.
Mustard hits the small seam and go about his business because that's what he did. That's what he did against Seattle. So, and Emmanuel Sanders got to step up this week. He had a monster game before that, but last week he didn't do much. So he has to have a really good game to actually for us to win. Because some other receivers don't do nothing if he don't do nothing. So, and then you got the Redskins Cowboys game.
Right.
So I put all the Cowboys stars.
Yeah. Nothing else needs to be said in response to that. Yes.
That's it. All of them had good games.
Yeah. Except for Amari Cooper. I don't think Amari Cooper has a good game. Because I just, who knows? After watching the end of that last game, I'm not really sure how much confidence they have in him.
I mean, I'm happy to go on a limb and say that Amari Cooper is not the number one receiver.
Yeah. I'm not even half going. I'm on the limb. I'm right there. It's Gallup.
I think Gallup's the more receiver.
Yeah. So
now, going into next year, if you're looking at their receiving core, I think Gallup, he takes a step forward next year because he made a step forward this year from last year. I think he becomes the number one receiver next year because I think they're gonna let Cooper walk personally.
Yeah, they have to. Yeah, I agree.
I don't think they pay him the money. So,
anyone in the Redskins you care about? No.
Not much.
I'm thinking it should be Adrian Peterson's last year, so maybe he goes out with a bang. But I'm not playing him in the champ. Well, it's not even in the Week 17 championship. No. So
look, I wouldn't even if I had a game to play. I wouldn't even play any Redskin.
No.
Like
none.
They wouldn't be in a lineup. Now, if I had any Cowboys, I'm definitely putting them in a lineup because that's such an easy game for them to get off.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm not playing any of them.
No, me either. No. So we can move to Philly and the Giants.
The Giants, I really like definitely Saquon Barkley.
He's gonna have a good game.
Daniel Jones.
I like Daniel Jones. Mm-hmm.
I'm high on Daniel Jones. Sterling Shepard and Golden Tate.
Okay.
Those three. But I really think as far as the Eagles, I think that backup tight end is really
got it. I think he has a big game. I like Miles Sanders in this game.
Miles Sanders, okay.
Yeah.
What about Greg Ward?
I'm not playing him. I mean, I don't know. I guess you don't really have a lot of options. So who else is Carson Wentz going to look at? Especially with Zach Ertz out this week. So yeah. So okay, you convinced me. I guess if I have to play him, I don't really have.
Greg Ward is one you would go after because they have no other receiver.
Right.
I mean, he's the only one that's producing at some type of value.
Right.
So it's like you either play him or play nobody. If you have to. Yeah.
Right.
But my biggest factor in that game is Daniel Jones. I like Daniel Jones going into next year.
Yeah.
Honestly.
I like him next year. I think he's going to be one of those underground picks you can make late that can, especially in a 2 quarterback draft, one of those guys you can get who's gonna make a big difference. I think he makes a big step forward in his second year. Well, first full year. So
is he a number 2 in your eyes?
Yeah, I think he's a quarterback too.
Quarterback too?
Yeah.
I can see that. Yeah. If you pair him with somebody like say Matt Ryan. Him and Matt Ryan together next year will be a good pair.
Because I still don't think the Giants are going to be good. So I think Daniel Jones is going to be passing the ball a lot.
Well, I think you're right. Now I have a question for you. What do you think about Saquon Barkley going into next year? As far as because the O-line stinks.
Right.
Their receivers, you have Golden Tate, Sterling Shepard.
But
as far as everything else, how you feel about it?
Well, this year he was number one, number two on our running back list. I think he drops a little bit from there, but he's still top five. Yeah, still top five. I think I have him third on my list going forward. So yeah, I'm big on Saquon. He's got the talent. As long as the only thing that messed him up this year was getting injured. So,
well, I mean,
and if Daniel Jones gets better, that's going to only make it easier for him.
That's true, and that's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping for him because I think Daniel Jones is a quarterback too next year.
Yeah.
Especially in our two quarterback league, especially on the back end. So just say, for instance, if you got that 9 to 10 pick,
right,
Daniel Jones can be that second quarterback to kind of guide you through the year with somebody else. And I honestly think Carson Wentz. What's your expectation for Carson Wentz next year? Because he hasn't really shown me much.
I mentioned that my father was here, and he's a big Eagles fan for last year, and he heard me talk badmouth Carson Wentz, and he actually agreed. He says, "Yeah, the best the Eagles have been has been when Carson Wentz is it's undeniable." I think I'm optimistically hoping he's better next year. I still think he's definitely top 15 when you draft. Yeah, I still think he's a QB1. Not a high-end QB1. He's QB1.5, maybe.
QB1. Now, you got about 8 minutes left. I just want to ask you this: if you had that 8th spot in the draft, 2 quarterbacks, are you going Carson Wentz at 8, or are you coming back on the swing around?
Swing around, I think. I have to look at it. I have a hard problem imagining him as. Let me think. Can I think of 8 guys off the top of my head that I started ahead of Carson Wentz?
I could.
Yeah.
I could.
I'm thinking I can because let's actually, since we don't have a whole lot of time, let's take a look at the list we put for way too early top 25. Because I'm thinking right now, I probably skip Carson Wentz in that first 8 because I think I have like 6 or 7 quarterbacks ranked ahead of him just on that list alone. And I left off a couple of guys.
I'm looking at your list now, and you have 1, 2. You got Pat Mahomes, Matt Ryan, Lamar Jackson,
Deshaun Watson,
Russell
Wilson. I have ahead of him. Jameis Winston, I have ahead of him.
Drew Brees.
Yeah, Drew Brees.
Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He got 7. That's 7.
Yeah, that's 7. So yeah. There we go. Then no, I'm not picking him with my 8th because there's other guys I'm thinking of before I even get to that. So, like I said, I think Carson Wentz is a serviceable QB1, but he's not a guy I think you're confident about winning the championship. If that's your number 1 QB.
Yeah, I just don't. I don't see that either.
Right.
I don't think you can roll the dice and go the whole season with him as your number 1 because you don't know what you're gonna get from him.
Right.
He's so high and low, it's insane. So I just don't. I wouldn't trust him.
I can't respect. But on these lists, I was excited to see yours because like we talked about it. We didn't go over our list together, but we talked about how difficult of a task it is to narrow it down to 25 guys. Right. So I was interested to see. We actually, of the 25 names, we have 19 names in common. Nowhere near in the same place on our list.
Oh yeah.
But our 25, number 1, we both agree. But I think anybody has Christian McCaffrey as their number 1. But of the 25, we have 19 names that are exactly the same. I put a few more quarterbacks on my list than you did. Quite a few more quarterbacks on my list than you did. And I left off some interesting guys from your list. The first one that stood out to me was Tyreek Hill, because Tyreek Hill, and he was injured some of this year, so maybe that's why. But he didn't even occur to me as a top 25 guy. Only because now rewind to the beginning of this year, and he would have most certainly been in my top 25, if not even in my top 10.
Well,
but this year,
I put him up there is
Right.
Because he missed. He got hurt the first game of the year.
Right.
He missed a lot of games this year. But right now at this moment he has 700.
Yeah, he's
22 yards.
Yeah, he's put in work when he's been there.
So I got him high, but I see one player that like I have Josh Jacobs,
right?
Who I really like. He didn't even crack your list.
Didn't crack my list at all, and so I'm a disloyal Raiders fan. But I tell you my logic behind that.
Okay.
I was going with my list for my top 25. I went with value. Who are the guys you have to have on your list? And the most important positions for me were quarterback and running back. The first, how many names? 6 names on my list are running backs. Josh Jacobs, to me, isn't one of those, at least not yet. He's not one of those guys that I'm saying, all right, if he's my number one running back, I'm happy with. If we...
he's getting 25 carries, though.
Yeah.
He's 25 carries a game.
I tell you, going into this year, 2 guys that I were flipping the coin were Damian Williams and Josh Jacobs, because I thought they both should have really good years. I ended up going with Damian Williams, which ended up being a horrible choice, 22. So if I could go back and flip that coin again, I'd definitely go with Josh Jacobs. I like Josh Jacobs going forward. I'm still like the other guys on my list, running backs I have on my list more than him so far.
I see you got Aaron Jones higher. You got him right behind McCaffrey.
Right behind McCaffrey, yes.
Right behind McCaffrey. That is a little surprising because
right.
I think Michael Thomas.
Yeah, I love Michael Thomas.
Michael Thomas he gets more production. If you think about if you do a league where it's completions, yards, and touchdowns, Michael Thomas he getting 10 completions a game.
Yeah.
He's going over 100 yards. He might get you 2 touchdowns, but he's automatically giving you 1. So,
that's another thing you have to know about my list, though. And my drafted this might be somewhere where we differ. I don't value wide receivers that much. And when I do my drafts, I'm looking at the number of players available at that position. And for quarterbacks and running backs, you're quarterbacks, running backs, then I say tight ends. There's very few players at that position that you can get and say, I have a stud. Wide receivers, there's just so many guys, and so many times the number 2 receiver on your team can put up better than number 1 numbers. So I say, I want Michael Thomas. I believe, like, when you look at the stat numbers, I would not be surprised to have a Michael Thomas put up more numbers than Aaron Jones next year. But I can replace Michael Thomas with a lesser wide receiver much easier than I can replace Aaron Jones with a second-tier running back. So that's why Michael Thomas is a little bit lower. But, yeah, Michael Thomas is definitely a stud.
I see you got Chris Godwin and Mike Evans
right beside each other. And Jameis Winston. I put the 3 of them intentionally like right by each other.
So my question is this though, and I have Mike Evans rated higher than Chris Godwin.
Mm-hmm.
If you had to pick one, which one are you picking?
I'm gonna go Mike Evans. I have them right beside each other, and honestly, I almost switched them. I almost reversed them, but I think Mike Evans has been doing it longer and more consistently. This year has been Chris Godwin's blow-up year. I'm not buying in as he's the number 1 guy yet, so I still pick Mike Evans as my. If they're both available at the same time, I'm gonna go Mike Evans, and I'm gonna feel pretty comfortable. And if I'm wrong, they're not gonna be that much difference. Just like this year, it's not a whole lot of difference between the 2.
No.
So yeah,
I would say you can't go wrong with both of them.
Right.
Now, the thing about Chris Godwin is he's getting 100 catches a year.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yeah.
The same with Mike Evans, but I feel like both of them make big plays.
Yeah.
So you can't go wrong.
And I
would try to get both of them.
And I say this, and this is the reason why Jameis Winston, I consider them a combo set. You know, like you buy furniture, and it's like, yeah, you can't break up this set. You can't break up this set. If Jameis Winston, it looks like Tampa Bay's going to stick with him. Jameis Winston is doing a lot in that offense. But if for some reason they let Jameis go and decide to try somebody else, I'd change my opinion completely on the three of them. They belong together.
I can see that. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I got Eckler low, but I really didn't mean to have him that low.
Right.
He was more of a scratching feeling.
I'll admit this. When I first wrote my list, I had Austin Eckler something like 22, and then I looked back and I said, you know what? He's a receiver. Then I was like, he may have the position of running back, but he's a receiver. I actually wrote it down. He has 511 rushing yards this year. He has 950 receiving yards. Yep. So it's like, you know what? Scratch that. Austin Eckler, he's getting a 10-spot boost on my list.
The only thing that scares me is Gordon. What they do with Gordon next year. Now, if they make him the number one guy
right
in San Diego, in LA,
uh-huh.
He is a number one. To me, he's a top 5 runner. Hands down. Because he puts you in a mind frame of a Christian McCaffrey, but Christian McCaffrey is better. But he just
he's the guy. But I noticed that both of us had Austin Eckler on our list. Neither one of us put Melvin Gordon, and I think it's for that uncertainty of like what's happening with him. And since he was the holdout this year, I have more faith in Austin Eckler standing than Melvin Gordon. I wish I could say. That's why it's way too early, because we don't know what's happening with them yet. But yeah, Melvin Gordon would instantly boost up my list if they were like he was number one. Then yeah, and even if he's number one on a different team, Melvin Gordon is going to be really big on my list somewhere.
If Gordon goes to a different team, he's definitely a top tier running back.
Yeah.
But Eckler, if he goes to another team and you still have Eckler in LA, I would go Eckler over him just because of the fact that he catches out of the backfield.
Yeah.
Those receiving yards and those completions are big when you talk about still getting the rushing yards too. And
especially if you play PPR leagues, you know,
that's
there's no doubt about it, right?
And then another one that's surprising that I love for next year is Nick Chubb. I did not know Nick Chubb this good.
The way Cleveland's been playing, it's easy to forget how good he's been, right? But I noticed I have him a lot lower than you have him on. You know why? You know why I put him so low? Because when I was doing this list, I was thinking Nick Chubb earlier, but I had to demote him for one reason and one reason only.
Why?
Kareem Hunt. Because he didn't come on to the end of this year. I'm wondering what happens in the offseason. Do they try to involve him more with that offense? And does that take away from? You don't think it matters? Is it going to be a situation like Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler this year, where you feed them both and they both thrive in the offense?
No, I feel like Kareem Hunt's not going to be.
You don't think he's there?
Nick Chubb is lead in the league in rushing.
Uh-huh.
You don't sit him. You give him 25 carries.
Okay.
You don't bring him out of the game. Plus, he can catch him third down.
Yeah.
You really don't need Kareem Hunt, honestly.
But he's there.
More feeling.
Right. But they had Nick Chubb when they signed Kareem Hunt, and that's the part that has me on the fence on where I draft them.
I don't think you need him personally. I think honestly,
they don't need him. I agree.
Somebody that can be a third down back just in case.
Mm-hmm.
But Nick Chubb can actually be a 3-down back.
Yeah, he can.
I mean,
he can. Now, I will say that Nick Chubb only has 277 receiving yards this year. Yeah. So he's not, much like we talked about Derrick Henry, he's not that involved in the passing game, at least not at this point.
Yeah.
I can see that changing, though. So, I'm with you. I don't think Kareem Hunt is necessary on that team, but his presence there has me, I guess, limiting how high I put Nick Chubb on my list.
Well, I give you a prime example.
Okay.
You remember the other guy that was in the backfield with Derrick Henry last year? Little short guy, number 20. I forgot.
Deion Lewis?
Yep.
Yeah, Deion Lewis.
Deion Lewis don't touch the ball no more.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So,
okay.
I think what's going to happen is with Derrick Henry, they're going to sprinkle in him on third down to those little out routes on the back, coming out of the backfield. I think they're going to try to make him more of a 3-down back because he's so big for them.
Okay.
And he's fast to be 6'7". I mean, geez.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's huge. So that's what I'm saying. Like, you really don't. That's what's going to happen with Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb is so good. They're going to have to play him every down. Okay. He's the 3-down back.
Okay.
I mean, personally, that's what I think. And if I'm drafting next year, Nick Chubb is in my. He's a guy that I'm trying to go for.
I like him. Here's another name on your list that's not on mine. Alvin Kamara didn't scare you off this season, it looks like. No. Yeah, he was like so high on my list in 2019, but this year I'm like, he's underproduced from where I think most people drafted him.
I think he's low on my list for where he was last year. Because I think Dalvin Cook got better. Aaron Jones got better.
Yeah.
Obviously, you got Zeke. You got Saquon. You got Christian McCaffrey. But, I think if he doesn't do anything next year, then I think Nick Chubb actually jumps him.
Okay.
Nick Chubb, Derrick Henry, I think those guys actually jump him next year if he doesn't produce like he did a couple years ago. So, but I think just the element of him being a catching running back and a running back that can run the ball, I think that's still an element that you have. You have to really think about that. So, I mean, I still think he's a running back.
Yeah, I like him, and I go for it because I think you can probably get Kamara a lot easier than you could this year because he fell so short of a lot of people's expectations. Yeah. So he's a guy I'm going to target. I don't have him in my top 25 yet for the way too early steps, but yeah, I do like him. I think that New Orleans offense, you got to get someone if you can up there. Here's a guy on my list that didn't make yours. Kenyon Drake, because you mentioned earlier I like Kenyon Drake. No, you're hating on him.
I don't. And the reason I say that, I'm going to tell you why. They got so much money tied up into David Johnson. Do they trade him? Because I don't think David Johnson's finished.
He's nowhere near finished. But I think he's finished in Arizona.
Well, maybe you have had conversations on the phone about this, off the podcast about it's more of a coach's decision than a coach's preference.
And that's why I think he's gone. Because they seem to be in. David Johnson was so high on my list this year, and he was performing those first few weeks until he got injured. And then they got Kenyon Drake there. It's like, I think they like him. I think maybe they think he fits the offense better. But I was reading something today, and this is just speculation. What about David Johnson going to Tampa Bay next year?
I can see that.
If he does, David Johnson's not on either one of our lists now, but David Johnson instantly jumps on my list if he's there.
Oh, yeah, because of that offense, and if they keep Jameis Winston, he's going to be a monster there. Now, I don't think, as far as Kenyon Drake, I have to see it again.
Right. I say nothing in Miami really had us thinking Kenyon Drake can be, but what we've seen of Kenyon Drake in Arizona has been impressive. So if this is going to be Arizona, and that's why I have him near the bottom of my list because I'm not really confident that this is what we're going to see next year with the David Johnson. First off, the David Johnson situation has to be clarified, and we have to see more from Kenyon Drake doing it consistently. But I think he's a guy you'll be able to target maybe low and get in.
I would reach for him.
No, I still don't reach. I still don't reach.
No.
Right.
Definitely gonna reach for him.
In fact, I probably still go Alvin Kamara before I pick Kenyon Drake. Oh, yeah. Even though he's not on my list, I'd probably still try to target him because I think I can get Kenyon Drake later.
Well, that's what I told you before when we had a conversation on the phone. I was like, it's running backs that I can think of that's way better than.
I don't know if they're going to be better because I'd say I'd probably try to. That's sort of the chess that goes into a draft. There's players that you may think of, because for a lot of time in recent years, I know we're getting short on time. Tyler Lockett was one of those guys where I thought he was better than a lot of wide receivers, but I would purposely not draft him because I knew you could probably get in, not now, but in years past, you could get Tyler Lockett a lot later than he was actually worth. And I think Kenyon Drake's going to be that kind of guy where you can probably get him later than he's going to be worth next year. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think both our lists are good.
Yeah.
I mean, because both of them are different in different orders. So nothing's remind you people, we did not go over this list together before we came on air. This is totally us doing it at home, and because we have different mindsets. And anybody that knows us, we draft pretty much the same.
Right.
We just
that's why I'm not surprised that we had 19 names in common. Something like yeah.
So the thing is, if y'all want to comment on the list, if y'all think
add your own list,
add it to the list.
Yeah.
Comment it and let us know. Actually, we ran over a little bit, but that's
a little bit. But this is good to me. Our last show for a while, so we'll be hitting you all up in the off season with little notes here and there. Maybe do a show, focus on a few subjects before the next fantasy season rolls around. But we can go a little bit longer. Yeah. So we are.
We got plenty of time. So I mean, honestly, I'm looking at my list. And I see it's one guy that I really, really like. I just don't like. He gets like 35 carries a game. I mean, geez. Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette is
I was surprised that I had him as high on my list as I do. I see he made yours a bit later, but I was like, am I going to really put Leonard Fournette this high? And I was like, yeah, I think I am.
He's high on your list, but I like Leonard Fournette.
Yeah.
I drafted him this year. He actually did numbers. He get a lot of carries.
It came down to, am I happy with Leonard Fournette as my number one running back? And the more I thought about it, I was like, yeah, I really am. Yeah. I really am. I wouldn't have thought that going into this year because it's Jacksonville. I was like, I don't know if I want Leonard Fournette as my top guy. But this year, I'm like, I like this guy.
They run the ball, and he get the ball a whole lot.
Yes.
And the thing, he don't come off the field at all.
Right.
So he could be a number one, and then you can just slide in any other number two in there, and you have a really good.
Have a really good package. I agree.
So I definitely think because really you probably can get a Leonard Fournette and somebody like Kendrick Drake next year and pair them together. Yeah,
I think you could probably even pull off depending on where you're drafting, a Leonard Fournette and a Josh Jacobs, and that would be a deadly combination at running back.
Man,
so
I'm telling you, like that alone is crazy. So I think that's good. But I'm surprised to see that you have Julian Edelman on this list.
I was wondering whether that was going to come up.
I mean, I like Julian Edelman. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think
he's a health. To me, he's a health hazard because he can get injured. But I was looking at his yards aren't that impressive. He's over 1,000 yards. He has 6 touchdowns, but he's the one reliable guy for the Patriots. I think you have because the running backs you can never depend on with the Patriots, and as far as receivers are concerned, he's the guy. He's Tom Brady's favorite target. So
that leads into what I got to ask you next. I got a question there. We can roll kind of off a little bit. Do you see Tom Brady coming back next year as a Patriot?
Yes.
Or do you see him going somewhere else?
No. I think he's still there.
Or does he retire?
No. He said he wants to play to I forgot, like 45 or some crazy number for a quarterback. But as difficult as this season has been, I don't think the competitiveness is out of him yet. So I see him coming back, and I don't see the Patriots having a better option. So I like Tom Brady back next year.
Okay.
Yeah. He didn't make either one of our lists because I don't think he's that guy. He's not the top 25 pick guy.
No,
but
not me. No.
I think he's in the upper half of quarter. What did we say when we first started? He was somewhere around like 20, 21 going into last season for like a lot of preseason rankings. And he's probably going to be somewhere around that number going into 2020 as well.
I think he's a number 2.
Yeah.
He's a quarterback 2 next year.
Yeah.
I at least out of respect from that.
Yeah.
A quarterback 2.
Or very low end QB1. I don't want him as my number 1 quarterback,
no.
but I can have him. If you have him as your number 1 quarterback, you hopefully have a lot of skill position players ahead of him that can carry your team. And if you compare him as your 1 with some dynamite running backs and wide receivers, I think you can still win a championship in fantasy with Tom Brady.
Well, put it like this: you probably could go even in the 2 quarterback league. You probably can grab your receiver or your top receiver or top running back with your another top quarterback and get Tom Brady down the line somewhere. How, I'm not saying that's how far he's going to drop, because you got to think about the Daniel Joneses of the world that's going to move up on the list this year. Daniel Jones, even Carson Wentz is going to stay up top. So, but you still got other quarterbacks that are going to move up this year. That's going to actually, you're going to have to kind of recommend more than Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Honestly. So, I mean, so you probably can get him in the 6th round this year, especially in the barbershop league. You probably can get him in the 6th round, 5th or 6th round this year. Now, if he drops that low, you can get skills players to go with him. You probably can amass a good team like that.
So, I think so.
Yeah, but like I say, people, if y'all have any questions, if y'all have any questions or disagreements with our list, let us know. We'll hit you back. As far as going into next year, like you said, we got some stuff planned. We got some special things planned for you next year. And we will stay on the website as far as the page and stuff. Just, add a list. We're going to start probably around draft season. We're going to start adding our top 25 all positions. So just let us know how y'all feel, what we can change, how we can do. We just get with it. We're all about improving our podcast and our website. And I appreciate people. Y'all have a good holiday. Good night.
Happy New Year, and we'll be checking in with you soon. Later.